The father of guard Caleb Love and the father of guard DeMarco Dunn said that Hubert Davis allowed the team to vote, and the player said no. The father of swingman Puff Johnson also disagreed with this decision.
Go Puff.
Puff, puff, pass.
Puff's dad, Gilbert, said it should have been a coach's decision, not the kids.
Puff's daddy?
They should have played to the NIT, win or lose. They needed that experience. Puff's daddy did not like the way this went down.
Oh, he killed me.
Here's Tom Pender's former Division I head coach. Quote, arrogance. UNC should be fined big bucks. The NCAA basketball committee should remember this slap in the face. The NIT started before the NCAA tournament. Okay, now Penders has gone crazy here because nobody should get fined for not playing in this. They should not be levied a fine. They should not be punished. And I don't think it's fair if next year UNC's a 5 seed, but you've dropped them to the 7 line because they disrespected the NIT. I don't think that's right either. But, again, the fathers of these players are saying this was a bad decision, A, by the kids, B, by the adults to leave it to the kids. Now, UNC is saying this was a communal decision, that everybody decided it together. But I don't believe that. Because what's the reason, okay, to not play in the NIT? There's only one, especially when you're UNC. There's only one. You're embarrassed. That's the only reason. You're not being charged to play in the NIT like the other tournaments. It's not a financial decision. UNC's got plenty of money. The only reason is embarrassment. And who would be embarrassed? Hubert Davis, who's a young coach who just went to a national championship game? Yeah, this isn't the season that UNC had assumed they were going to have. They were the preseason number 1. They returned a bunch of kids from last year's team that went to the championship game. So Hubert Davis, I'm sure, isn't happy, but it's not Hubert Davis who's, quote, embarrassed. Coaches can't really afford to be embarrassed. Coaches have to just keep coaching. And coaches want to keep coaching. And coaches know more games helps our players and our team for next year. I'm guessing the administration also would prefer to have a team play on ESPN. It's exposure. Again, it's experience, but these games are on ESPN, ESPN2. You know, they've got a good time slot. I mean, last night, the games that mattered, quote unquote, were on True TV. The games that didn't matter were on ESPN. Which one did you find easier? So the administration wants their school, their team, their kids to play on these big platforms. The only person or people that will be embarrassed are young people. They get embarrassed easily. And the young people in the room at UNC remember the preseason expectations. They think about probably fans, media, people on social media, making jokes at their expense because they were the preseason ones and now they're out of the tournament.
Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Twitter.
And young people get embarrassed. You know, they have an ego. They have a facade. You have to keep up that you're cool and you're hip and you've got it all under control. You dress well. You're popular. This is how social media works for everybody, but certainly for young people. An image for young people and is so important. And then egos can be punctured. And so if you were to ask anybody within UNC, do you want to play in the NIT? And the answer would be no out of embarrassment. It would only be the players. Which is why you can't leave this decision up to them. Because I guarantee you, 20 years from now, every kid in that room will have been disappointed and regretful that they voted no on this. When you can step back and realize what's important and what's not when you're older versus what you thought when you were younger, you realize how many stupid decisions you make based on popularity, based on image, based on ego, based on what you thought was cool or looking cool or being cool. You realize 20 years later, even 10 years later, sometimes 5 years later, man, it was so stupid to care about that because that doesn't really matter. Once half these guys don't play professionally and they zoom forward into their 40s and they think, man, we could have had an extra 6 games to go play or extra 4 games to go play or extra 2 games to go play, and we said no to it? Just out of what? I mean, class isn't better. They wrap up their basketball season. They go back to campus to do what? To go sulk and play video games? It's better to now be playing basketball, and it's absolutely better for their team next year. There's no question it's better for next season to play more competitive games against teams and sometimes road venues that'll be difficult and good players and good teams that also want to win. And what ended up happening to UNC was the empowerment of the child. Now, look, I'm absolutely for NIL. Players are worth a certain value. We were preventing them from earning that value based on archaic rules. NIL is your market value. And I think we all would want that. Let's say you earned a salary from, your insurance company that you work for, or the Bed Bath & Beyond that you're a stock person at, or something like that. And you knew on the side you could earn an extra $25K with a side hustle. But Bed Bath & Beyond or Amazon or the hospital you work at was like, no, there's no side hustle. You're not allowed to do that. That's the bylaws of the contract. You're like, what? It's not affecting me to make an extra $25,000 having an Etsy store, selling some stuff on eBay, working on weekends at so-and-so. But they're like, no, you can't. Well, that's the market value of these kids. So I have no problem there. That's the right thing. What I have a problem with is when you entrust young people to make all the right big decisions. As they always say, wisdom is wasted on the old. But the older you get, the better your decision-making usually gets. And when you allow children or young people to make big decisions, and sometimes you run the risk of they make the wrong decision. Now, look, adults make bad decisions all the time as well. But what is this decision based out of? If you were to pull the UNC Tar Heels and say, okay, kids, okay, players, okay, guys, why don't you want to play? What would be their reason? Embarrassment. That's not a good enough reason. And you want players to be vocal and you want players to feel like they have influence, and you have to these days. But this is the wrong side of it. I'm not going to judge anybody's parenting, but I have a few friends who kind of like let their kids make all the decisions. And I'm going, this is bad news. Because sometimes the adult has to be the adult. Sometimes the parent just has to say, that's not how things work. We can't, and I say this a lot, like we can't have ice cream for every meal. I know you want it, but that's just not the way things work. If you let your kid vote for what to eat for dinner, sometimes or all the time, the decision is going to be probably a bad one. They let the kids decide here on the NIT. What do you guys want to eat for dinner? We want to eat Laffy Taffy. Okay. All right. All the Laffy Taffy you can eat. Come on, truckloads of Laffy Taffy. They're just going to eat that. Doritos and Coke. Every day. That's what I want. Oh, all right. You have all the Doritos you want.
Should somebody let you know Laffy Taffy's not that popular anymore?
What would be a good modern candy?
M&M's. The kids are into the M&M's.
That's not quite as teenagey enough. When I was looking for
Airhead.
Okay, Airhead. What do you want to eat for dinner, kids? Blue Airheads.
Perfect.
Great. Blue Airheads. That's what we're going to eat for dinner tonight. A lot of Blue Airheads. And that's basically what they did with the vote here. All the adults of the players, the fathers, the parents of the players were like, no, my son voted wrong. This is a bad decision. So, you have to be wary of when you're in college athletics, the empowerment of the player versus also giving them some guidelines, allowing them, yes, to have a voice. Of course, that's important. And they're not children. I shouldn't have framed it that way. That was a mistake. They're not kids. They are student athletes. They are young adults. But that's what college is. You're trying to make your own way, but you're also having to still abide by some structure in society and this kind of like framework that you have to navigate. Well, the framework is you're a basketball team. There's more basketball to be played. It's the right thing to do. It's a greater good. You got to go play. You should go play. You should want to go play. And that's ultimately also a worry here, is that the UNC players didn't want to play.